Welcome to the Antisocial Podcast. My name is Andy, as always, hasn't changed yet. A little very quick episode for, I was going to say this week, but there'll be another one this week, no doubt. A little bit of an in-between episode. I thought I'd do a catch-up on the old Duolingo, as you would have heard on an earlier episode, and I can't remember the number episode off the top of my head, so just scroll back and have a look and you'll be able to find it. But I wanted to do a part 2 and do a bit of a catch-up and give some thoughts of how this whole Duolingo app is going and what my progress looks like and thoughts around it and challenges that I have and whatnots. And I know that after the first episode I recorded about this, a number of people jumped on board, download the app, and I'm almost competing with a few people. So each week I'm looking at how people are tracking and trying to do my best to keep up with everybody else, including my dad. Actually, I shot him a text message a little while ago and just said, you should try out this Duolingo app and we can learn German together. And he downloaded it straight away. And I didn't expect him to jump on board, to be honest. I thought he'd just go, oh yeah, that's nice. But he's right into it. So each week I keep looking at my weekly leaderboard, and he's always a few points ahead of me. And so I'm always desperately trying to keep up with him at the very least, let alone everybody else. So, but it's good fun. And look, I think regardless of the outcome of this and how much of an impact or effect it's going to have on my my language skills, or in this particular instance, my German, it's a hell of a lot of fun, this app. So I won't keep everyone for too long, but I thought I'd just touch base on a few things. And I know that there are a number of people that are now on this app or have already been on this app for a while. And I think before I carry on too much longer, I really encourage everyone to jump online, and whether you comment on the any of the Facebook links I put up, or jump over to the YouTube channel that I've got. So that's youtube.com/C for Charlie /Andy Dowling, I think. Get on there and have a look for this episode or the first Duolingo episode, and leave some comments and leave some thoughts about what you think of the podcast, not the podcast, but of the app, how you're tracking with it. I'd love to know even just any tactics that you guys use as far as learning and what sort of goals you put on. 'Cause, on the app, it's quite cool because you can put a little goal in there. So every time you finish a little module, you get, I'm not sure what they call, are they called Lingos? But they're points. It's a point system. So you get 10 points every time you finish a little module, a little lesson. So you can put a goal in of how many points that you want to achieve each day. So I've just got 30, just nice and easy, and doesn't take too much time, or it's not too taxing. And main reason for that is I didn't want to set it too high and then give up very quickly. So luckily I'm still going and still doing fairly well overall. So the 30 goal for me has been quite good. But I do encourage people just to leave some comments and maybe just get a discussion started about how you guys approach it, and whether you feel that your capability or your skill when it comes to the particular language that you're learning, whether it be German or Italian, Spanish, or one of the other many languages that the app provides. And what do you think? Like, do you think that you can now converse with somebody else of that native tongue, or do you think you'd really struggle, or do you think you've got at least a little bit more confidence than where you were before? It'd be great to understand how other people are tracking. I mean, I can see a few people that have joined up and we've linked together. And if you want to find me, I guess for reference, you should be able to search for my name, Andy Dowling. But if not, I've got a web link that shows on my app. So it's Duolingo, so duolingo.com/Andy Dowling. So instead of Andy Dowling, get rid of the G on the end and replace the G with the number 1. So for whatever reason, the link wasn't long enough. So we've just got Andy Dowling 1, and connect with me, link up, and we can compete together and see who can achieve the most per week or per month or whatever it might be. So I guess for me, and I can only give my experiences, and as I said, I'm sure many of you can weigh in on the topic as well and give some feedback. I definitely know a lot more than when I started. That's for sure. Like, I find myself when I'm going through the lessons in the app that I'm remembering a lot more from the previous lessons, and I'm linking words together a lot more, and I'm understanding in some cases the structure of the sentences a lot better. So sometimes the structure of the sentence doesn't completely mirror the structure of a sentence in English. And from what I can see, and I'm only sort of going through basics at the moment, the majority of the structures seem to be very similar, but there are particular phrases that are not completely reversed like Japanese. Like Japanese is very Yoda-like. So if you're not familiar with Japanese and how it's structured, think of how Yoda speaks. That's how I think of it anyway. I mean, I could be way off the mark, but I only know a little bit of Japanese, but it always reminds me of Yoda. So if you know how Yoda speaks in Star Wars, then you'll get an understanding of, in a basic sense, what Japanese can look like as far as their sentence structure. But there is some stuff in German that I find is not exactly like that, but similar in the sense that if you've got a sentence which is of negative tense, where you're saying you don't like something, or you don't have something. I'm not exactly sure. There might be quite a significant difference between those two particular examples, but one of them in particular, they put the no or the negative word, like the not or the no or whatever, at the end of the sentence. So it's almost like, I like books not. So, I guess for many people that come from a background where English is the native tongue, there's a lot of sarcasm jokes out there, especially in the 90s. This was quite popular, where you would make a statement, but at the end of it say not. And anyone that's familiar with the Borat film, they took that joke to the next level, which was quite funny. So I found that in some examples where it was almost like I was typing out the response and saying, like, for example, I like books, and I was writing I like books, and then it got to the end and it had niched or nit, which was no, and I was like, oh shit. So then I had to go back and erase it and say I do not like books. So it's that was an example. I don't know if that's even correct either. I can't even remember, but I found that was slightly different as far as the reversal. And I did find that some words, instead of like some lead-in words, so like am doing something, or are doing something, sometimes they're combined with the noun. So I'm really going to fail with this, but there are some words like the word run and read. There's quite a few variants of those words depending on how it's expressed in the sentence itself. So if there could be one version or variation of the word run, so it'd be like running, and the German word of that will be something like am running instead of just running. So instead of two words, it's just one word that covers both English words. So I'm doing a hopeless job explaining this, but these are my initial impressions of the German language. So you're going to have to really bear with me on this. I guess the big thing that I'm finding at the moment is that I am retaining parts of it, and I am retaining a lot more than I expected. But if somebody came up to me and started speaking to me, or wanted me to, like, I guess if someone walked up to me and said, oh, okay, well, I don't know any German, can you speak to me in German? I would stumble all over it, and I would draw a blank. And I had this problem when I was learning Japanese as well. If I was in the midst of learning and I was going through the lessons where there would be audio or, something that's app-based like this, I was fine. I was going along and I was getting into the groove of it. I could see it. It was almost, I guess maybe I was following patterns more so than anything else, but I was retaining things, and I was recalling words and phrases and whatnot. And I really felt like I made progress. But then when I was removed from that whole learning environment where I was taking in that information, I found that I would panic. Like, I couldn't remember anything. I couldn't remember anything whatsoever. I was just drawing a blank all the time. That's what really stopped me from learning Japanese more than any further than where I got to. And that's a really self-defeating thought that I had. But at the time, I just sort of went, this is not working. Like, I'm not retaining this information when I need it. And there was a point where I was about to go to Japan for whatever reason. I can't remember what it was for. And I was learning as much as I could leading up there because I was so desperate to talk to my friends and the people that I'd formed these great relationships with. And part of that, I was putting unnecessary pressure on myself, but I was really starting to panic because whenever I removed myself from those lessons that I was taking in every single day and really getting into a great routine, I was finding that I was struggling to retain something. Or if I met somebody that could speak a little bit of Japanese and they started speaking to me and they said a bunch of things that I hadn't learnt yet or didn't understand, I just blanked out. I had nothing. I couldn't even start giving them examples of what I'd learned. I couldn't remember anything. It was just out of sheer stress and panic. So I sort of just gave up and just went, oh, fuck it. Like, I can't, this is not working for me. I don't have the capacity to do it. Then I used a whole bunch of excuses like, oh, I don't have enough, Japanese speaking people around me. I live in a society where English is the native language and, there's not enough focus put on foreign languages and blah, blah, blah. And I'm not surrounded by it. So I don't really have much of a hope in learning it. And, just made up enough excuses to stop doing the lessons. And you know what? An absolute shame and really, really silly thing to do in hindsight. And even saying it, I really feel ashamed for that way of thinking. But, it was the truth. That's how I sort of handled it, and I didn't handle it well. And I guess saying it out aloud now, I definitely should go back, and whether I start from the start again or I pick up where I left off and just keep chipping away at it. So anyway, going back to where I'm at with the German stuff is that I'm finding at times, and I work with people at the moment that are not everybody, but certain people that are familiar with the German language or people that do speak German. And I haven't really let up to tell people that I've been learning German, but there's been a couple of people that I've mentioned it in passing, and they've actually made comments to me or made a word or said a word or something like that. And same feeling, exactly the same as what it was before with Japanese. And I've started to go through those same motions that I had with learning Japanese and now with German and going through this Duolingo app. So now for me, this is the crunch time. This is where it really matters. This is where I need to push through and get through to that next step, that next stage. So I'm really enjoying it. And I think for me, I just need to take the pressure off. And I always put pressure on myself to try and do the best that I can. And, I always want to be able to achieve something and get to a certain point by a certain time. And if I can't do it, then I usually throw in the towel, which is pretty shit of me. So anyway, at the moment, just going on and having a look at my profile, and I'm just getting my phone to work. I've accrued so far. Come on, phone, you can do it. All right, it's not working. So I think from what I can remember, it's about 2,800 odd points. No, sorry, I over-exaggerated there. 2,200 points that I'd earned so far with German. So, I'm going to try and double that over the next month and see if I can really get up there. There's a few days that I miss every once in a while. I just get distracted with other things. But for the most part, I usually get my at least 30 in a day. But some days I get, double that or triple that or whatnot just to play a bit of catch up. And I always try and do the lessons at least 2 to 3 times each. So I do find that I'll rush through a lesson and go on to the next one. I can't remember what I just learnt beforehand. So I try to do each lesson at least twice, but 2 to 3 times just to really drill it in. So I know that for me, it takes me a lot longer to get through all the modules and whatever, but I'd rather do that than scream through it and come out the other end with nothing attached to it. So the thing with Duolingo, they keep updating all the modules all the time and all the lessons. So you start at the top with Basics 1, then you go down and it goes through all the different things. So you've got things like intros, food, animals, plurals, adjectives, questions, clothing, nature, pronouns, there's adverbs, stuff, houses, people, all sorts of things. So there's heaps and heaps and heaps. But I was just scrolling through before and once you complete it, the little module turns gold. But I've found that they keep updating these lessons all the time, and the gold completion thing turns off, and you have to go back and go and do the additional little bit of work for each of those lessons. So for me, with my slightly OCD personality, it pisses me off because I'm like, fuck, I've already completed this, and it doesn't look good now that I've skipped ahead so many with all these incompleted lessons. But at the same time, it's quite good because they're obviously identifying things, and there's areas where I should go back and strengthen particular words and phrases and whatnot. And I think that's why the statuses of them change. So I have to keep going back and checking and updating those lessons and going through them just to strengthen them and turn them back to a completed status. So it's very much a work in progress. And I'm just having a scroll through now. I've probably done, what have we got? We've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 25. I've gone through about 25 different modules itself, and each module has about 3 or 4 little lessons in each one. So I've done a fair bit in the last month or so since the first episode of this particular thing went out. So on track, doing pretty well. Have a couple of off days where I don't get to do it, but I usually catch up and I'm doing fairly well. Got some great healthy competition with some people that listen to the podcast. I've got Damien who does my editing. He's on there as well. He just did a trip to Europe and went to Italy, so he was trying to brush up on all of his Italian before he left. As I said, I've got my dad on there as well. There's a few other people that have joined up as also. So it's quite fun. And look, as I said before, if you haven't done it before, or you haven't even bothered to learn a language, or you're not aware of the app, go and download it, join up, find me, link up, and give it a go, because it's really, really fun. It's a lot easier than you'd think. And while, look, the goal might not be that you are at a level where you can converse with somebody of their native tongue, but if it's just a case to really sort of understand another language. And as I said in the last episode that I did for this, it's really a great way to understand the English language, a hell of a lot better as well. So I've found that just sentence structure and remembering all the little things that I was meant to learn in school have all come back, and I've had to really use my brain. It's been quite good. And for me, what I do a lot of is a lot of writing. And I think, and I believe that some of this language stuff that I'm doing, these lessons that I'm doing through Duolingo, it's sort of improving my writing skills because I'm getting a better grasp of my own native tongue. So there's a lot of benefits there, and it's a lot of fun. It's dead simple. It's really, really, really simple. They pretty much hold your hand all the way through it. So don't feel, it's not like, I don't know what that other program is. I think it's Rosetta Stone or something like that. There's a lot of big foreign language programs out there, lesson programs and applications and whatnot. And some of them are quite complex and daunting. But this is so easy. It's really well put together. It's a very simple concept. And as I said, they pretty much hold your hand all the way through it. And there's no pressure. Even the way that it's structured, it doesn't emit or doesn't encourage a stressful sort of learning experience. It's extremely laid back, and it's very, very, it's very light, and it's very fun. So I think if anyone's been on the fence before and has dabbled or thought about learning another language, get in there, give it a go, because there's so much on there to learn. And just finally, before I wrap this up, because anybody who hasn't listened to the first Duolingo episode that I did, you don't have to worry about German. If German doesn't interest you, I'll just quickly go through the list that I've got here. There's Spanish, French, German, Italian, Portuguese, Dutch, Irish, Danish, Swedish, Turkish, Esperanto, Norwegian, Ukrainian, Russian, Polish, Welsh. And I think the other ones that are available are more for people from a foreign language perspective that want to learn, whether it be English or another foreign language. So from an English speaking perspective, there's all those ones that I just mentioned. And I guess if you're from a background that English isn't the native tongue, there are a number of other lessons on there for those other backgrounds as well. So there's heaps of stuff there. I know from an episode that I heard a while back with Tim Ferriss, I think, the guy who runs Duolingo, and I can't remember his name off the top of my head. I mentioned in the previous episode, they're working on a lot of the Asian languages at the moment as well. So Cantonese, Mandarin, Japanese. So all that stuff will probably be available over the coming months as well. So it's a really, really cool app. It's packed with so much stuff. Highly recommend giving it a go. And as I said, find me on Duolingo. So duolingo.com/Andy Dowling1. So remove the G and add the number 1, and link up, and let's get cracking. And I can see my dad's already increased his weekly points up by 10. So he's on there right now, going hard on German. Anyway, enough rambling. I'll leave it at that. And by all means, get onto the YouTube links for these episodes, or jump on Facebook and leave some comments. Give me some feedback. Let me know how you're tracking. And I'd love to be able to compare notes and even just get some perspectives of what you're getting out of it, or the challenges and the struggles that you're having with the app, or just learning in general. And I think for me, I love reading. I love learning things, but at the same time, I love learning things that are easy. As soon as things become difficult or complex, or they start to challenge me, then that's when I naturally feel challenged, and I struggle a lot more to break through those periods where my instincts kick in to give up. So I'd love to know how other people are tracking. So please leave some comments and let me know. Final words very quickly, as always, jump onto iTunes. You can rate and review this podcast, leave a couple of words. And you know what? The other thing I thought is, if you get on there, and I've explained this on previous episodes of how to do that, you can do that through the podcast app. So if you've got an Apple phone and you've got the podcast app, you can do that by clicking on the show itself. So the Andy Social podcast show. You can either do that via your favorite show list, or just go back and search for it again and click on it. So you can get to the summary page, and you click on the tab that says reviews, and right there you can write your own review and give it a rating out of 5 stars. But yeah, if you're able to leave a review on there, then let me know. Give me a heads up, because I don't always check it, but it appears that not a lot of people rate and review podcasts. Even the big guns out there, they have quite a few, but they don't have the equivalent of how many listeners they get. So it's still a very, very tiny percentage of people that leave ratings and reviews, as opposed to the amount of people that actually listen and download the episodes. So for anybody out there that actually does leave a review on the iTunes app, put some details in there. Tell me who you are, and if you play in a band, or you run your own business, or whatever, and if you're an artist or anything, if you've got something to plug, throw the link in there, or tell me who you are, and I'll just do a shout out. If you guys are taking the time to let me know what you think and helping me get up the podcast charts and whatever, then the least I can do is do a shout out for you guys as well. I mean, I'm getting a pretty core group of people that listen every week, and you never know, I could plug something of interest for all you guys. So if anyone wants to take a couple of minutes to go and leave a review, by all means do so. Leave some details in there of what you're up to and what you'd like to have plugged, and I'll certainly get on there and make a mention in future episodes. And if you've done so between by the time this podcast episode comes out, don't fear, I'll eventually get to you down the track. Last couple of things. I've mentioned the YouTube channel before. Get on there. All the episodes are on there. Even if you just listen to it via your smartphones and via apps or via Stitcher or anything like that, definitely jump on the YouTube channel and leave some comments on those episodes, even if you don't listen to it via YouTube, or use those links to share the podcast to people who aren't familiar with podcasts, or anybody who's just too lazy to download an app or listen to it via another website, another platform. Sometimes YouTube, there's people that exclusively listen to music on YouTube. They don't, listen to CDs or download stuff from iTunes or use Spotify or anything like that. Some people just continuously just have YouTube playing all day. Like some people listen to stuff while they're working or wherever. Anyway, so I would encourage everybody to use the YouTube channel as a bit of a tool to spread the podcasts around. I'm going to try and I have started already to post a lot of the YouTube links via the Facebook page as well. So get on there, and if you do feel that there's an episode that someone might benefit from and be interested in, then by all means use those links to share them around. And finally, very quickly, May 28th is the podcast party catch-up, and it will be at the Fun Room at Frankie's Pizza by the Slice in Sydney CBD. That's down towards the Harbour Bridge end of the city. I'll have more details as we get closer, but it'll be a 6 p.m. start. Jordan McDonald, who was on episode 32 of the podcast, has been extremely generous and has given me free reign of the Fun Room for 3 hours before they open it to the public at 9 p.m. So you can come down earlier. Frankie's opens from 4 p.m. and I'll probably be down there from there anyway. But I'll have the Fun Room open for all of you guys to come in, have a chat, have some drinks, and we'll have somebody behind the bar that's helping us out as well. So I'll have a few other things that I will hope to have for the evening, and just a few things to make it special and exclusive as well. And as I've said in previous episodes, I'm not promoting this anywhere. I'm not making a mention of it on social media. It is only via these episodes. You're more than welcome to spread the word if you'd like, but I'm not going to do it from my end here. So if you've got any questions or any suggestions or anything that you think might be cool for the night, or if you're going to come along, or if you're from interstate or from overseas, you're going to be in town, by all means, shoot me a message in advance. Let me know, and it'll be great to meet in person. But that'll be May 28th, Saturday, May 28th, 6 p.m. at the Fun Room at Frankie's Pizza by the Slice, right smack bang in the middle of Sydney, right in the city centre. So more details as we get closer to, but it should be a fun evening, and I'll make sure that it's one to remember, hopefully, and the pressure's on. Anyway, enough rambling. Thank you very much for listening. There'll be another podcast this week, or if it's later in the week, then there'll be another podcast within a few days anyway. Thank you so much, as always, for listening, and by all means, go back and listen to some other episodes if you haven't already done so. But appreciate the support, as always, and we'll speak soon. Later. You're ready.